Shalom, people. This is Brother Laws coming at you with another video. And we want to talk on the subject of jealousy. And what we want to talk about, it from the point of view of God being a jealous God. And we also want to talk about it from the point of view of jealousy amongst us as Hebrews. We want to see what the scripture says about jealousy. Is it good? Is it bad? When we look at the relationship between a husband and wife in many of our communities, when you talk about a jealous husband or a jealous wife, in many cases it's looked on as a negative thing because of a lot of the domestic violence and things that are associated with it. And if I could, reach out to some of you today that might come across this video, I'm pretty sure that a lot of you, probably, maybe grew up in a house where you had a parent or both parents being jealous of each other, and there was a lot of arguments, and maybe separations, divorces, or whatever associated with that jealousy. So when we hear certain things in the Bible, when it talks about God being a jealous God, or just the word jealous, period, you see that in your mind these situations that you grew up in, and you said, "There's no way that I can believe it. God, Yah, is a jealous God." When all my life I've seen the destructiveness of jealousy. But we have to remember, as we go into this study, that the Bible says his ways are not our ways, neither is his thoughts our thoughts. And we also got to look at that if these emotions exist on earth, not all the emotions that we have, right, are evil. Anger is, in some instances, is justified. Jealousy, in some instances, is justified. And we want to talk about it briefly today. So we're going to start off in the book of Exodus. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to read a few passages out of several books showing you that God says that he is a jealous God. Jealousy, when we try to define it, down to what it means, we can try to put a definition on it, which we will, and see what we can do to better explain it, right? And the word jealous simply means feeling or showing envy of someone or their achievements and advantages. And I guess a good illustration of that would be, in our community, in black community, Hebrew community, we have the what we call the crab in a barrel mentality, where they say if you put crabs in a barrel or whatever, they're always trying to climb up, right? And so they grab the thing that's in front of them and start pulling themselves up. Whereas they do that, they're pulling the other crab down, and Then the crab that's underneath them and grab hold of them and pull them down. So they always pulling each other down. There's always, they say in our community, when people see you coming up, they trying to pull you down because of jealousy and envy. So when we, like I said, when we think about that point, uh, this is why when we read that Yah is jealous, we think about that. But I want you to put that out of your mind, because when you understand that there's nobody above Yah, there's nobody above him that he has to pull down, and nobody's pulling him down. Whatever emotions he has toward us is going to be beneficial to us. Is to unless you his enemy, which the jealousy shows that he has a relationship with you that causes him to say in his mind something is coming between me and them, and therefore the jealousy comes. We're gonna go into that a little bit, but we're gonna start here with Exodus 20, starting at verse 1. It said, and I'm gonna be reading the King James version. It said, and Yah spake all these words, saying, I am the master thy Elohim, which brought thee out of the land of Mizraim, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other Elohims before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the master thy Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Then we're going to go on to Exodus 34:8, and reads, and Moses made haste and bowed his head toward the earth and worshiped, and said, if now I have found grace in thy sight, O master, let my master, I pray thee, go among us. For it is a stiff-necked people, and pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us for thine inheritance. And he said, behold, I make a covenant before all thy people. I will do marvels, such as have not been done in all the earth, nor in any nation. And all the people among which thou art shall see the work of the master. For it is a terrible thing that I will do with thee. Observe thou that which I command thee this day. Behold, I will drive out from before thee the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite. Take heed to thyself, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land whither thou goest, lest it be for a snare in the midst of thee. But ye shall destroy their altars, and break their images, and cut down their groves. For thou shalt worship no other Elohim, for the master, whose name is jealous, is a jealous Elohim. Let's go to Deuteronomy 4:23. Take heed unto yourselves, lest you forget the covenant of the master thy Elohim, which he made with thee, and make you a graven image or the likeness of anything which the master thy Elohim has forbidden thee. For the master thy Elohim is a consuming fire, even a jealous Elohim. Chapter 5, verse 6. I am the master thy Elohim, which brought thee out of the land of Mizraim, or Egypt, from the house of bondage. Thou shalt have none other Elohim before me. Thou shalt not make thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters beneath the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself unto them, nor serve them, for I, the Master thy Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. Chapter 6, Deuteronomy 14. Ye shall not go after other Elohims of the people which are round about thee, for Master thy Elohim is a jealous Elohim among you, lest the anger of the Master thy Elohim be kindled against thee and destroy thee from off the face of the earth. Then let's go to chapter 36 of Deuteronomy. Chapter 32 of Deuteronomy and verse 16. And it reads, they provoked him to jealousy with strange Elohims, and abominations provoked they him to anger. Right? They sacrificed unto devils, not to Elohim, to Elohims who they knew not, to new Elohims that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. Of the rock that begat thee, thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten Yah that formed thee. And when the Master saw it, he abhorred thee because of the provoking of his sons and of his daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be, for they are a very forward generation, children in whom there is no faith. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not Yah. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. And we're gonna look at that later on when we get to the book of Romans, when you're talking about jealousy of us that we have toward the other nations. Then we go to Ezekiel. I'm just trying to get a basis to show you that Yah over and over and over is showing you. He's saying, I'm jealous. God, Elohim, when it comes to you showing devotion or affection to any other person, right? Ezekiel 8 and verse 1. And he said, it came to pass in the 6th year, in the 6th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I sat in my house, and the elders of Judah sat with me, that the hand of the Master Yah fell there upon me. Then I beheld, and lo, a likeness as the appearance of fire, from the appearance of his loins downward fire, and from his loins upward as the appearance of brightness, as the color of amber. And he put forth the form of a hand, and took me by a lock of my head. And the Spirit lifted me up between earth and heaven, and brought me into visions of Yah to Jerusalem, to the door of the inner gate that looketh toward the north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provoketh to jealousy. And behold, the glory of the Elohim of Israel was there, according to the vision that I saw in the plain. Then said he unto me, Son of man, lift up thine eyes now the way toward the north. So I lifted up mine eyes the way toward the north, and behold, northward at the gate of the altar, this image of jealousy in the entry, right? Then we're going to go to Zephaniah 3:1. It said, woe unto her that is filthy and polluted, to the opposing city. She obeyed not the voice. She received not correction. She trusted not in the Master. She drew not she drew not near to her Elohim. Her princesses within her are roaring lions. Her judges are evening wolves. They gnaw not the bone until the morrow. Her prophets are light and treacherous persons. Her priests have polluted the sanctuary. They have done violence to the law. The just master is in the midst thereof. He will not do iniquity. Every morning does he bring his judgment to light. He faileth not, but the unjust knoweth no shame. All right. I have cut off the nations. Their towers are desolate. I made their streets waste, that none passeth by. Their cities are destroyed, so that there is no man. There is none inhabitant. I said, surely thou shalt fear me. Thou wilt receive instruction. So their dwelling should not be cut off. However, I punished them, but they rose early and corrupted all their doings. Therefore, wait ye upon me, saith the Master, till the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my what? Jealousy. Yah is a jealous Elohim. And his jealousy is based on the fact that he knows that when we put trust and devotion in these demons that call themselves gods, or whatever they might call themselves, that is going to be to our destruction. He understood that when the Israelites started worshiping the other gods, there's going to be child sacrifice, there's going to be sexual immorality, there was going to be venereal diseases, there was going to be destruction of the land, destruction of the animals, destruction of heritage. There was going to be a breaking of covenant, and Yah will have to bring in and correct and devour. And ultimately, as he did with the northern kingdom that was in Samaria, he wrote them a bill of divorcement, and he allowed the southern kingdom to hang on for a little while longer, and then eventually he allowed them to go into captivity in Babylon for 70 years. And then when they came back, they had no king anymore. They were being occupied by different nations, and that they never was going to be the way that they were before, where they had total autonomy, and Yah was defeating all the nations around them because they were having spiritual affairs with other entities, other gods, that Yah said it made him jealous, and because of that he was going to have to correct them to help them to understand the great sin that they were doing by not keeping their devotion and attention toward him. It's a foregone conclusion to me that, and even including myself, that it's very, very few people, and this probably happened maybe probably after a couple of 100 years after Yeshua died, that after that it's probably been very, very few people that have walked this walk the way that we should. We see it in what ended up happening with the message after the apostles and all them went out that it was starting to be corrupt then, that they understood, coming from the understanding of how Yah was, from them reading the Torah and the book of the prophets, that Yah was, and I think this is what brought in a part of the, what they call the Judaizing amongst the believers that were Hebrews amongst the Gentiles, is that they had seen how idolatry dealing with Gentile nations had brought them to a beggarly state, that they didn't understand that one of the reasons why it was hard for them not to be faithful to Yah was that the law, doing the law, did not produce power in itself to keep them to be faithful with Yah. Like Paul said, that which I would do, I don't do, and that which I wouldn't do, I don't do. Why? Because I don't have inside of me the strength. But the strength came when Yeshua died on the cross and shed his blood. And the blood is not just, understand this, the blood is not just for the cleansing of sin, but it's also to impute the righteousness of the law in you. Remember, Yeshua was the living word, right? He's the living word, meaning all that was written about Yah, all that is written about whatever. When you are born again and you are washed in that blood, and the Bible says the righteousness of Yeshua, who is the living word, is imputed, it's infused. It's sort of like with this, what the principle of what vaccines are supposed to be is they give you a portion of, and I know this might not be a really good analogy, but I'm gonna try to use it. I think I used it before. It gives you a little bit of the virus for your body to replicate and strengthen you against it. So when the virus comes again, or the bacteria, whatever comes again, you'll be able to fight it off, right? Which is, there's natural remedies to help your body in its natural state do that, but because of certain things that men did, they created these vaccines to throw off the biological processes that Yah had put in the earth. But that's getting off the subject. But that's to say the blood of Yeshua, which had the righteousness of the law that Yeshua had walked out, the moral law, not the ceremonial laws. Not talking about the ceremony law, not talking about the civil laws. I'm talking about the moral laws, the 10 commandments. Yeshua lived them out. He lived them out. He lived them out because he wrote them. He is the living word. When you are born again and you are washed in the blood, not only your sins washed away, but the righteousness, meaning the active living out of what the law was to do to help you walk it, is imputed into your being, your spirit, so that even if you haven't read them with your actual eyes, the intent of doing good is put in you, which is even better than you just being able to read them, but having no power to live them. See, there's a difference between understanding, but not doing, but not understanding, but yet doing. Is it better to do something good and not know that it's good? Or is it better to know what's to do good but not do it? See, this is the thing, right? Yah said, I want to be able to empower you to do that which is good, whether or not you have been able to physically read the law. So salvation that came through Yeshua doesn't preclude you from studying the law. I'm talking about the Ten Commandments, because we understand that the moral and civil laws that we were under when we were in our land, we are not in our land. We are still in the times of the Gentiles. So there is no way that the civil laws, and even if we were, the civil laws, they're done away with. There is no sacrifice except the sacrifice of Yeshua. There is no sacrifice. So those are done away with. But the moral laws, he came to impute them into our heart. Because notice what in the book of Ezekiel, where he talks about he was going to write the laws on, take them off the tables of stone and write them on our heart. The only laws that were written in stone were the 10. Everything else that Yah gave Moses to write, right, were the civil and the ceremonial laws, right? But the Bible clearly stated that they never were meant to last forever, the blood of bulls and goats. It's never meant to stay in that. Therefore, that part of the ceremonial and civil laws were done away with. Now, the civil laws, most reason that they were done away with was we was not going to be in our land. We was going to be kicked out, and a lot of times you wouldn't be able to do certain things that you would have been able to do in the land. Right? This is why when a lot of us got caught up in the Roman Catholicism, Roman Christianity, or whatever, and they changed the laws to Sunday, right, and not the Sabbath, right? What we to do, not also to mention that the type of services and all the kind of stuff that we do today, if you really look at it, right, really on the Sabbath, quote unquote, days, you never was to do nothing. You wasn't supposed to leave. You wasn't going to be leaving out of your house and going to some church and having service and driving your cars and all that. You wasn't going to be doing it. You wasn't. So this is why we have to be able to rightly divide and understand what the times of the Gentiles mean. We got to understand about what Christ, Yeshua, was doing when he on certain Sabbath days when they seen him walking or whatever. He was trying to get them to understand that the Sabbath was not, you were not made for the Sabbath, that the Sabbath was made for you. What the intent of it was, not that we want to say that Sunday replaces it, but as I did teaching a couple years ago, that grace came for us when we was gonna be moved out of the land, and we wouldn't be able to keep the some of these civil laws, and we wouldn't be able to keep some of the ceremonial things that some of the Hebrew Christians were doing for the maybe first 3 centuries. Some of them were still keeping the feast, not for salvation, but as looking at the feast as, okay, this feast represented what part of the life of Yeshua. Okay, just like he says, as often as you drink this cup and eat this bread, you show forth my death. What was he talking about? He was talking about when they partook of that portion of the Passover. This is my understanding, and I stand to be corrected, that there were Two things, or rather, in fact, let's go there. Let's go there to Mark. Let's go to the Mark 16th chapter. Okay. Now, this is what Yeshua stated in Mark 16th chapter, verse 15 to his disciples. He said, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature." So that's one of the things he told them that they had to do. He that believeth and baptized shall be saved. So he told us we had to preach and we had to baptize. That he that believeth he that believeth not shall be damned. And these signs shall follow them. And talked about doing the casting out of the devils and all these. All of these things were not suggestions. These things were commandments that Yeshua said. And he said, if ye love me, keep my commandments. You understand what I'm saying? But understand this, he was giving them the power to do these things, right? He was giving them the power to do these things. The parts of dealing with the 10, not only did the Holy Spirit empower you to do these things, but he also empowered you to do the preaching, to do the baptizing, to do the casting out of devils, and the works of the Spirit, according to 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter, 1 Corinthians, the 12th chapter. This is what the power was, to be able to live out what it is stated and to do these things, right? And so the power for them to be able to do this before Yeshua was not there. Therefore, they were always committing spiritual adultery on Yeshua, on Yah rather, and causing his jealousy, as he said, to be red hot, and in which he punished them, right? So when Yeshua came to to fulfill the law, at least the ceremonial parts, it didn't have nothing to do with the civil laws, because they was gonna get kicked out of the land. He had told the disciples that. He said, "Your house is left unto you desolate." The main things that we were to, as believers, Hebrew or whatever, was to make sure that people were born again. Because being born again, the laws were going to be written on their heart. And they would know, and this is where you get 1 John, where he said, you have no need that no man teach you, because you have an unction from the Holy Spirit. So what does that mean? That when you get a Bible, well, I already got the law written on my heart, I don't have to read it and understand it. No, he didn't say not to read it. He didn't say not to look. And I'm talking about the 10. I'm not talking about the other, whatever 613 they talking about. I'm talking about the moral law, which was written in stone. All y'all said was he was going to take that off the stones and put it on your heart, right? So that you wouldn't have to walk around with the stone in your hand. It would be on your heart. And plus, you would be able to live out the spirit of what that was, meaning you would go beyond, like he said, not committing adultery. You would go into the part of not looking on a woman to lust after her, which is the deeper spiritual part. Like Paul said, the law is spiritual, but I am carnal. But when you're born again, the carnal man, you crucify him every day and the lust thereof. But again, that doesn't mean that you turn around like when the Gentiles took over and said, okay, the 10, it's dead. That's dead too. How can it be dead when he said he came to save you from sin? If the law tells you what sin is, you see, you got to understand the language, right? And it took me a while to understand that, because it's that eternal argument that Paul brings up in Romans. He says, shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? Yah forbid. Why would Yah forbid? Because he said, don't lie, don't cheat, Don't have other Elohim before me. But you're going to not do it by reading of the law, but it's going to come through salvation, through faith and believing in the work of Yeshua on the cross, that you're not stressing because you don't have on your 613 tassels around you, or you don't have the scriptures taped on the doorpost of the house, and you got to read them every day. Now, reading the Bible is important, studying it, reading it, praying, and all these things, but by faith, right? Because you read too many testimonies of people that were born again where they said, all they said was, God saved me. They didn't say Jesus. They didn't say the sinner's prayer. They didn't understand systematic theology. They just knew that they were a sinner and they needed to be saved. And they said, Yah, save me. Think about the slaves. The slaves did not have, our ancestors did not have a whole Bible. They hid a lot of things, but yet the many accounts of the services that the slaves had, they said that the spirit was so high in those services with these people that could half read, but when they got that Bible, it was almost like something powerful came on them, that a lot of times the masters would stop them from having service because they could understand. You know, these people connecting back to their Yah without understanding the words, without understanding how to read, but they understand the spirit. You understand? Now, what does this mean to those that want to do the feast and all those things, whatever? I do them, but I'm telling you that if you, for me, the minute that you start equating that to as part of your salvation, right? You're moving into dangerous, because even we read that when he come, he gonna give us a pure language. If he gonna give us a pure language, and the Bible said that the second Exodus is going to be greater than the first, that must mean that he's going to come up with different things for us to remember. That we ain't going to have to remember what he did for our forefathers. We're going to remember what he did for us while we was in this land. What he did for us when he brought us through slavery, and then brought us through Reconstruction, and brought us through Jim Crow, and brought us through desegregation, and brought us through the civil rights movement, and brought us through the 70s and 80s and 90s and the 2000s. We're going to remember what he did for us and people in other parts of the world, of our people. When he bring them in, he going to remember what he did to us, because he cast us off because we kept provoking him to jealousy. Right? So let's look at Romans, because the jealousy dealing with us goes to the fact that because he gave us all this and we still wasn't following him. But when Yeshua came and salvation was open to the Hebrew or the Jew first, and then to the Gentile, that when we rejected it still, but then we seen the Gentile come in and they hadn't gone through all the ceremonial, civil, and all that stuff, and our forefathers seen in them getting a relationship with Yah. It brought up what in us? It brought up jealousy. So let's go to Romans, the 10th chapter and verse 1. And it said, brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to Yahuwah for Yasharah is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of Yahuwah, but not according to knowledge. For they, being ignorant of Yahuwah's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of Yah. For Mashiach is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth, right? For Moshe described the righteousness which is of the law, that the man which doeth those things shall live by them. But the righteousness which is of faith, speaketh on this wise. Say not in thy heart, who shall ascend unto heaven? That is to bring Mashiach down from above, or who shall descend into the deep? That is to bring up Mashiach again from the dead. For what saith it? The word is nigh thee, even in thy mouth and in thy heart. That is the word of faith which we preach, that if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Master Mashiach, and shalt believe in thy heart that Yahuwah has raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. For the scripture said, whosoever believeth on him shall not be afraid. For there is no difference between the Yahudim and the Gentile. For the same master over all is rich unto all that call upon him. For whosoever shall call upon the name of the master shall be saved. Right? So what he was saying here was, without you having to understand the Pentateuch, without you having to understand the ceremonial laws, that if the conviction of Yah came upon your heart after you hearing about the message that Yeshua died for your sins, that if that message convicted your heart and you felt conviction that you needed to be saved, that if you called upon the name of can't call upon the name of the Lord, Yeshua. Or in some cases, I heard people that called on the name of, this called on, said, Lord save me, or God save me, or whatever, that they knew that they were saved. You understand what I'm saying? So that is what you want to be gunning for, right? But what he was saying was, our people had got so wrapped up in the acts of what they considered to be righteousness, which was keeping the feasts, reading the Bible or the Torah or whatever, and all these things, but not actually doing it. He said they had got so caught up in that they actually found satisfaction in doing the practice of being righteous without being righteous. He said they didn't submit themselves unto the righteousness of Yah, just like the Pharisees had created certain laws where you could curse your mother and father, and by you paying a certain amount to them, meaning you wouldn't have to be responsible to take care of your parents when they got a certain age. It was called Korban. They was going about establishing their own righteousness, and the righteousness of the law, right, which was spiritual, which could not be achieved through the flesh. When Yeshua came along and the Spirit came into you, it would enable you to do that without even have read all of the like I said, the laws and all that, because it would impute it into you. If you said, I'm a sinner and I need to be saved, whether or not you knew about the law like the Yahudim, or you didn't know about the law like the Gentiles, if you called on his name for salvation, you got it. Now again, it didn't say because you were saved without knowledge of the law that the law was evil, that the law died. The law, in it, the end of the law for righteousness is saying that now no longer did you have this facade of a righteousness by doing the ceremonial and civil laws, which they did, right? The unclean and all that. That was done away with, and plus the man-made stuff that the Pharisees made up. No longer was your righteousness precluded to that, right? That's why Shaul got mad at Peter, because when Peter went unto the house of Simon the Tanner, which in the law it was forbidden for them to be around people that touched dead things, But now, according to the vision that Yah gave Peter, he said, don't call that which I've called clean, unclean. And of course, we're not saying that that vision was showing that it meant you can eat any kind of meat that was unclean to the law. It wasn't, that vision was not for that purpose. It was to show him about peoples. So we don't adhere to that we don't adhere to that when Yeshua died for you to be able to eat whatever and to dress count or whatever and have, no, we not stating that. But what we are talking about when it's dealing with people, that they did not have to go through that. And then what that did, that brought up a jealousy within the Yahudim, some of them who had accepted Yeshua and some of who hadn't. Because let's go here to the 19th chapter, right, of Romans 10. He said, but I say, did not Israel know? First Moses said, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people, and by a foolish nation I will anger you, which is what we have read back in Deuteronomy. We had read back in Deuteronomy, what was it? Well, the scripture that I just got to reading in Romans is actually in Deuteronomy. I want to say it right. Is it? Okay. Deuteronomy. I think it is Deuteronomy 5. Deuteronomy. Let's try Deuteronomy 32. I think it's Deuteronomy 32:16. Yep. So Romans 10 and 19, it can actually be found in Deuteronomy. It's actually Deuteronomy 32 and 21. See, this is why we, like I said, when he said it's the end of the law for righteousness, it did not mean that like I said, the moral part was never done away with. It just meant that which was ceremonial and civil, it was the end of that. But it was also the end of the ceremonial and civil laws having anything to do with your righteousness. See, it was an outward thing until Yeshua came along, right, and fulfilled all of that. And then you accept all of that he has done, and the moral laws, which were never done away with, which were on stone, those will be written on your heart. But all the other stuff, because our people were going to be kicked out of the land, the civil laws and the ceremonial laws, we wouldn't be able to even do them, even if they were in effect, because we was going to be kicked out of the land. And y'all had to allow that to happen. He had allowed the temple to fall down. And if you read the book of Hebrews was going to show them how they were going to be able to live this life without the temple, without doing the ceremonial laws and everything, showing them that if they continue to try to do these things anyway, that it was an affront to Yeshua, and it was actually disconnecting them from the power that they got through faith, right? And so those that rejected it would rise up in jealousy, because when those that had not went through the ceremonial and civil laws that they had to go through, and they start seeing them getting saved and being able to have all the gifts and things that they had, they was like, oh no, that can't be. How can it be when they haven't done the Feast of Tabernacles, and they haven't done this, and there was probably still maybe not adhering to maybe some of the dietary laws and the circumcision laws and stuff that they had. And it was like, they can't be, even though I know that by faith this thing is, it's got to be something of the law that they still got to do in order to prove to me that they're saved, right? No, but he said if it's written on their heart, they now that you got them, now don't try to take them back to that which wasn't keeping you. The ceremonies and the things that you were doing before Yeshua came was not keeping you. It's Yeshua that's keeping you. So that's not to not say that they didn't read, because there was no New Testament. They was reading Deuteronomy, just like I showed you. Paul stated in the letter. Remember, these were letters that he was writing to particular assemblies. These were not circulated throughout all the places. So the people that was in Corinthians didn't know nothing about the letter of Romans. They didn't know nothing about that. They didn't. That was just to the Romans. Not to say it can't be used for everybody, but understand what I'm trying to say. They were searching what we call the first 5 books of Moses and the books of the prophets, and what we call some of the apocryphal books, like the book of Enoch. They was reading those things, right? And they was pulling out of those things. And then they would write letters and say, remember this in Deuteronomy where it says he was going to provoke you with to jealousy with a nation that was not a nation his, to provoke you, so that we see now our jealousy will be an evil jealousy, an unfounded. Unlike Yeshua's jealousy, our jealousy will be an unfounded jealousy. And we see in Romans, we're going to go back to Romans 11 chapter this time, that Paul continues to talk about that jealousy, right? Romans 11 and 10 said, let their eyes be darkened that they may not see, and bow down their back always. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Yahuwah forbid, but rather through their salvation is come unto, rather through them salvation is come unto the Gentiles, for to provoke them to jealousy, right? To provoke us to jealousy, to do what? To cling hold to say he came first to us, but we rejected him. And because of that, Yah scattered us throughout the nations. And we got a teaching that we're going to teach, talking about the harvest later on. And one of the things that when we studied about the harvest is that in order to get, when the sheaves came into the threshing floor, we're going to talk about all that. They placed the sheaves on the threshing floor, and they had the oxen tread out on top of the sheaves to separate the tares, the wheat, the straw, the farm materials, and the wheat will fall down to the bottom. But he had those oxen tread it out, stomp it, break it up. Y'all had to scatter us out to the nations and let the Gentiles tread us down. That's why the Bible said Jerusalem shall be treading down the Gentiles. And we know that Jerusalem can not only mean the city of Jerusalem, but Jerusalem can mean the people of Yah. Jerusalem was being treaded down. Why? So that he could get rid of, separate the chaff, separate the tares, separate the wheat and the farm materials, separate them all out of all this. And notice, like I said, the shaft was the part that was blown away and was burned up. It was Jacob's trouble that we was going through. We getting close to the end of that, but that was to do that, and once we got to certain places, right, he would continue to let them trample us down. Trample us down. And he said, "You shall not see me again until you say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of Yahuwah." Things start turning around for our people in this land, during this captivity. Even though this was the hardest captivity, this is the captivity, I believe, that was bringing us back to where we was going to really fully reconnect as a nation. Not because as individuals, we have always been us that have been coming to Yah, through his son. We was coming to, but as coming into as a nation, this captivity, especially when when Yah allowed the gifts that we had to be taken and manipulated by our captors, this brought up great jealousy amongst us. And in many ways, what David had told us, not to envy the oppressor, we went into all of that. But that was all to start coalescing us back into a nation where that, and now that we know we are the people, that jealousy to say, man, we want that favor of Yah that they had. That they had that favor, not because they were good, but because we were not doing what Yah said. Therefore, he gave the riches and stuff that should have gone to us, went to them. The understanding of certain scriptures and different things went to them. We were blinded so that they might come in. Now that blindness is coming off. But now some of us, right, the jealousy, right? We have to have the jealousy, not in a bad way, jealousy in that we want to live the righteous life so that we will have the favor of Yah, right? Because we understand that he is a jealous Yah. And that now we understanding that they took the message that originally we had and they polluted it. That makes us jealous. That makes us angry. Like, and let's go to it. Like Elijah, we should have this jealousy now that Elijah had. Notice this in 1 Kings 19, and for the sake of time, I'm gonna go down to verse 9. Okay, and the backdrop, of course, is that Elijah is on the run after Jezebel threatened his life. So verse 9, he said, he came thither into a cave. This is after he ran into the wilderness or Sinai, and lodged there. And behold, the word of the master came to him, and he said unto him, what doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Elohim, Master Elohim of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thy altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword, and I only am left, and they seek my life to take it away. Then it goes to go down to verse 14. And he said, I have been very jealous for the Master thy Elohim, because the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thy altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword, and I alone am left, and they seek my life to take it. His jealousy was based on the fact that he was feeling the jealousy that Yah felt by them going to other Elohims. And we as the people, and this is and understand, this is before I even knew I was we were the people, that I looked at some of the things this quote unquote Christian church was doing. I said, this stuff is pagan, man. I don't want to do it. But everybody telling me I got to do it. I said, no, I don't want to do it. Because y'all said it don't matter, man. Everybody knows that Christmas is just like fairy tales that you read to your children. That just go. Plus, I said, but y'all say he hates this. Easter, you read it in Ezekiel, the 8th chapter. That's all right, it ain't that bad. Freemasonry, all right, ain't that bad. Sororities, fraternities. No, he said he's jealous of that. He said we should be jealous too for him. Now we understand why we were, not just because it was put in the Christianity, but because Paul said by him giving this to them and they polluted it, now that jealousy he said was supposed to provoke, it's supposed to be provoked in us, not to the point that we say that the Gentiles now can't be saved when we know we're living in the times of the Gentiles, but we know that it originally wasn't theirs. It was given to them because we rejected it. Now that we know who we are, we said we want it back. Not that you can't have part of it, but it was originally ours. I want it back. And I'm jealous of the stuff that you have done with the message that our Hebrew Messiah put. And you put all this stuff and put him to open shame by putting him on the cross, on these crucifixes of him being a Caucasian man, when you know he said he is risen and then he didn't look like that. And you make him weak and emblematic, and that there is no power in what you're saying when you let all the paganism seep in at the Council of Toledo, the Council of Nicaea, and all these other councils that you created to circumvent what the first apostles, who were Hebrew and some of their followers, were saying, and replaced them with the church fathers, and made grace, right, a license to say that once you were born again, right, reject what is in the Old Testament or whatever, but receive the church concordat, receive the church bylaws and all that stuff, when this is just ridiculous. Because if you go back and look at most of the bylaws and stuff of the church, is what was in the Bible, right? And understand the righteousness. Paul said, shall we continue in sin but grace may abound? Yah forbid. If you have the righteousness of Yah imputed unto you, you're not supposed to be actively sinning. And that's for everybody that's looking at this. If you're actively in sin, you are making Yah jealous. If you say you're born again, we're going to go to 1 Corinthians and show you. This is in the quote unquote New Testament, and then we're going to get ready to end. But this is what Paul said. They always try to use Paul and say Paul, said the law's done away with, and that's not what he said. But let's go to and I'm talking about the moral laws again. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 10th chapter, verse 13. He said, there has no temptation taken you, but as such is common to man. But Yah is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able. But with that temptation will also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. Wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. What is that? That's the commandments. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. I speak as to wise men. Judge ye what I say. The cup of blessing which we bless, is it not the communion of the blood of Mashiach? The bread which we break, is it not the communion of the body of Mashiach? For we being many are one bread and one body, for we are all partakers of that one bread. Behold, Israel after the flesh, are not they which eat of the sacrifices partakers of the altar? What say I then? That the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols is anything? But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to Yah. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils. So this is part where there was, people were saying, Paul was saying they could eat things to devils and all this other kind of, he said, if you didn't know, you will be forgiven. He said, but if you knew the stuff had been sacrificed to devils, don't do it. He said, don't have nothing to do with idolatry. Don't have nothing to do if you know Santa Claus and Easter and Halloween and all this stuff is connected to this. And you know, he said it's connected to devils. And I would not have you sacrifice to devils. You cannot, verse 21, you cannot drink the cup of the master and the cup of devils. You cannot be partakers of the master table and of the table of devils. Do we provoke the master to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? So the same provocation that y'all had for the Hebrews in the Old Testament has for you today. That's part of the engrafted ones. That if you do the same thing, just like he said in Romans, if you see what he did to his seed people, what do you think he's going to do to you that were grafted in? Look at what he did to us. He said all the day long they're killed like cattle. We were killed like cattle. Now that this thing is coming around to y'all, you're going to understand, right? Because see, we was born again Christians and all that, and we still was being shot down the street. We were still being trampled under. And y'all was doing that to do what? Provoke jealousy in us so that we overall as a nation would get together. He did it not just here in America, but he did it in Brazil. He did it in Africa, wherever. He did it in the Caribbean islands to provoke us to jealousy. To do what? To do right. To do right. So we need to be jealous in the sense of we don't want nothing to deal with y'all to be polluted. And Babylon does not operate like that. Babylon is confusion through mixture. And that's why and this started before America was formed. That's what Catholicism is. And that's what Protestantism is, because Protestantism is a daughter of Rome. Along with Mormonism and all these other isms, right? And I was going to talk about the Hutsis and the Tutsis, the jealousy between them. And from my study, I understand that that they could be Bantu people and therefore they could be of some of the tribes. But thinking about that jealousy, thinking about provoking us to jealousy, that in a lot of ways, this jealousy that we had was jealousy, but it wasn't the kind of jealousy that Yah was trying to produce in us. He was trying to produce a jealousy toward righteousness, but the jealousy that was produced in us because of our sinful state caused us to be jealous of each other and caused us to be murderous toward each other, right? This is not the kind of jealousy that he wants to be produced in us. The jealousy that should be produced in a husband toward his wife, or the wife toward a husband toward his wife, and a wife toward her husband, is a jealousy not that's going to pop her upside the head and say, you can't come out to the house when I'm working, but the jealousy in the sense of that if he feels that her heart, or she feels that his heart is running toward something else, that we gotta work this thing out. We gotta get in. We gotta stop the outside force from coming in and breaking up what we got, right? We gotta band together, right? But if we can't band together, then we'll come apart, which is what y'all said. We can't band together right now. I'm gonna have to send you off. I'm gonna have to scatter you out. But I'm gonna bring these Gentiles in, and hopefully they'll produce some jealousy in you that's gonna make you come back to me. Now remember, his ways are higher than our ways, so I'm not telling you as a husband or wife to show affection towards somebody else to make your spouse come back to you. That's not how it operates for us, because remember, his ways is higher than our way, and his thoughts are not our thoughts. But the concept is that sometimes if we don't pay attention to somebody, the enemy will come in, and then y'all allow that jealousy to stir up, not to cause you to pound your wife or pound your husband on the head, but to step your game up, to make yourself to be that person that will cause them not to stray off to somebody else, but come back to you. And Yeshua was that which Yah sent, his only son. They say, I sent my only son, but you rejected that. Okay, so you rejected that. All right, scattered, Jacob's trouble. Then when you get right and you say, blessed he to come in the name of Yahuwah, I'll bring you back. Right? So that's our lesson today. I want you to leave a comment. I want you to subscribe to this channel. I want you to give me a thumbs up. And I want you to just remember that the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. And we need to pray for the two sticks to come back together. We need to pray for the Exodus, for Yah to pull us out of the lands of our captivity in all four corners of the earth. So you say bless, be blessed, and see you next time.